So welcome to Unit 3, Module 1, Lesson 1, Console Input. So today we're going to talk about getting input from the user. We've talked about this before, but today we're going to be very specific in how we expect that information to be received. So first, printing from the console allows information to be displayed to the user. The console input is text-based, data-driven, taken from the keyboard, and giving a program access to that information. But sometimes that information isn't exactly in the format that we want. Let's take a look at an example. In this example, we have set up our tempo. We're going to say hello on the screen, and then we're going to say that we want some input and we want it stored in the variable n. Now, n's not a great variable name. We probably should use something better than n, but maybe username would be a better variable there. But here we're going to read the input. What is your name? So we will get this prompt displayed using the read input command to allow the user to see this prompt and type in their name. Once they've completed that, then we're going to print out to the console, hi. The plus sign in this case is concatenation. Plus sign is overloaded, as we talked about before, that if we're putting two strings together, it concatenates them, puts them together. And it's going to also concatenate exclamation mark, it's nice to meet you. The important thing to remember about the read input is that it always accepts a string. It never accepts anything else. So read input will always be a string. But sometimes we want a different kind of input. We want this data to be something different. So what we need to do is to convert the string into some other kind of data. So the first kind of conversion we can do is we convert a string into an integer. So the way this would work is we would take our string, let's say it was my string equals, and we're going to put a number in here, 56. If I wanted to make that string 56 into a number that the computer could actually do a calculation on, I would say my number equals int parenthesis my string. So now we can do something like print my number plus 1. So it will change 56 to a 57 because we're incrementing and printing out one more than 56. If we print my string, it will print out the number 56. If I do plus 1, it will print out 561, not 56. Actually, it'll give an error here because it doesn't allow us to combine these two types. If I wanted to combine a number with a string, I'd have to do something a little bit different. We'll look at that in a minute. The float will convert a string containing digits which would look like a decimal into a floating point number, a decimal that the computer can use. So again, if we take a look at this, we could say my string equals quotes 56.7. And then we could convert this to my number, and we'll say float my string. So now this will convert the number 56.7 into an actual number, and then we can do our addition again. So we're going to print my number, let's say, times 2. And this will print out the value times 2 onto the screen. So we can, this is often useful because we want numbers from the user sometimes in order to calculate things, especially things like measure lengths and envelopes, and sometimes they're decimals and sometimes they're integers, and we want to be able to do math on them. And if we're only getting strings, that means we can't do that. So we need some way of converting from the string to a number. And this is the methodology we use. But sometimes we want to convert back. So let's say we were doing some calculations. Let's say my number equals 57.8. We got this from the user, or 56.8. And then we said, but wait, I want to print out maybe that this is a temperature. So I wanted to say print my number plus the is the can't type it, current temp. Well, this won't work. This is going to cause an error. So what I need to do is use the function str around my number to convert it to a string. So Python says, oh yeah, I can print out a string if you're concating, so I can concat a string to a string. It can't concat a string to a number. It doesn't have that built in. So it's only overloaded to concat strings to strings and to do addition from a number plus another number. It can't take a number and concat it to a string. It needs to be converted to a string. So it's really important to pay attention to. Other languages are different. Other languages will allow you to do this without converting to a string. It'll automatically convert it to a string for you, like in Java or C#. But here in Python, we have to convert it to a string. Otherwise, we will get an error. So here's another example that we can take a look at. In this, first we're going to get a valid tempo from the user. So we're going to do a read input, and we get the tempo, and it's fine to print it out here because it's still technically a string. We got the information from the user as a string, so we're going to print it out as a string. You set a tempo of t beats per minute. Probably should have a little space there. Then, next thing we're going to do is convert that to an integer. So we're going to use the int command function and convert the t, which is a string, into an integer and store that in tempo. And now we can set the tempo. Next, we're going to set up our variables with our music here. And we're going to set up two beat strings. And we're going to ask the user to choose which sound clip we need. Dubstep Bass Wobble 0 actually has several different versions. So we could choose Dubstep Bass Wobble 10, 11, 12, 13, all the way up through 46. So we're going to let the user choose the sound clip they want to use to make this song. So we're going to say the final clip is the dubstep clip plus the clip number. So that will take, again, a string. Remember, clip number is going to be a string. Even though it looks like a number to us, to the computer, it's a string. So it's okay to concat these two. And we're going to get dubstep bass wobble 0, and whatever number the user entered concated to this. So then we can actually go ahead and do our fit media. We use our final clip, put up some measures, track 1 through 5, and then we get a nice little for loop here, which is going to use our beat string to build into our beat, and then we have our clap, which is going to use the same type of thing in order to build our beat. Remember, this is all based upon our initial tempo that was set by the user. So now, every time the user uses this program, they create something brand new. It's a new piece of music. So the user is creating music on their own as opposed to you just playing music for them. So that's kind of interesting. So, your turn. Your practice assignment to create a program that will get input from the user to set the number of measures a clip will play for. So you're going to have to deal with the fact that they input a string, and you're going to have to convert it to a number in order to set up a set media and use that measure length. So think about that. You're also going to have to choose a start measure and end measure. So think about how you want to do that. And this should allow for decimals, because we know measures don't have to be full measures, they can be partial measures. So you're probably going to have to use that float function rather than the int function. You might want to use the int function to get the start measure and end measure. That would be up to you. Ask the user where they want to put this, or just set a start measure and end measure for them and just allow them to choose, or a start measure at least. The end measure is going to be based upon their input. So have fun. Remember, never stop coding.